Hi guys. I was looking for something to build as the holidays were getting closer. The days were getting a little bit colder and the COVID lockdown restriction was in place. I found a set called Justice Magician Castle 3-in-1. It was 19,000 plus pieces, and since I've always wanted a full Hogwarts Castle, I dropped about $685 and ordered it. As you can see, it was kind of massive. Box was about 18 inches by 20 by 22 and probably weighed, I don't know, 35, 40 pounds. Upon opening it up, there were a few dozen loose bags and several saran wrap bags. It kind of looked like large slabs of meat, as you can see here. The loose bags were for set 7316, the Great Hall, and that's the one that Lego put out. And then the saran wrap ones were labeled 7315, the Central Courtyard, and 7317, the Fountain Square. This time I will show a picture or two of the completed step and only break out into a video if commentary is warranted or I make modifications. Given the size of the set, I'm hoping to keep the runtime reasonable. I hope this video will give you an idea of what to expect if you pick up the set. My build time for all three sets, plus addressing issues, making mods, searching and replacing for several parts, and unfortunately a few rebuilds, was around 10 weeks, putting in 3 to 5 hours almost every day. At times it was a little grueling because of the number of small pieces and repetitive nature of the build. However, given the price point and the result of the build, I feel it was worth the money, time, and effort, especially if you're a fan of Hogwarts. My next project is to be a mock. I'm going to try to do a Quidditch pitch to go with the castle. Anyway, thanks for watching. Be well. I finished bag one. Sorry about the glare there. And just a couple observations on the manual. They compress a lot of steps into a page, a lot more than a Lego set would do. Sometimes it was a little hard for me to tell the colors of the pieces. I could tell the shapes, but you know, these colors right here, sorry for the shadow, a little difficult to see sometimes. The other thing I would advise is pay attention to your decal sheet. Unlike a Lego, they don't number their decals, so you want to make sure that you look at the decals, see what it looks like, and then find it on the sheet. Maybe even check it twice before sticking them on. And that's it. Okay, I'm doing a video for bag 2 because I just wanted to make another point. On the instructions, they gray out whatever you've built prior to the step that you're working on. On the pro side, it kind of shows you, it's easy to see where the parts go. But on the negative side, at least for me, is sometimes the reference points are a little bit hard to find. That's about it. So here's the end of bag 7. I'm only making a video for this one too because there's one little issue. For whatever reason, this part right here, I can't get to stay on well. That's about the best I can do with it, but these fit all solidly in this one. This one, it feels like there's a warp or something in one of the pieces, and it keeps it from resting. So you can see the little gaps in there. I can't get it to press down and be flat, so hopefully later on it'll work its way out. But anyway, that's the end of bag 7. On to 8. This is the first time I had a missing part. Fortunately, I had another one in my spares, but I was missing that. They gave me this guy. Can you see it? Instead, it looks like just a little tree part, but I guess with the weight. I'm actually kind of surprised at how accurate they are with the bags. There's literally no pieces left over for the vast majority of these bags, with the exception of what I showed you earlier. So I don't know how they're doing that. There's a group of pieces that I got that I'm now starting to wonder, did I forget something? Anyway, that's what that step is, just detail, kind of cool. the light hits it correctly, which unfortunately from this angle it's not. It kind of shines pretty nice. Bag 15 is done, and it's basically the Dementors and some trees and the roof detailing. I will say though, this is a good point, the reason why I'm doing the video, is the one thing that Lego is so much better at than the Chinese set versions is the little parts on these, they grip, they clutch, but not great. So you just have to be careful. The trees were horrible. These guys don't really grab onto each other very well, but I think they knew that or anticipated that because they give you, that's the only time I've ever seen a bunch of extra parts in a step. So take your time. I think you have let's see, 2, 4, 6 trees, 8 trees. Each tree has 3 of those segments, so you need 24. Pick out the best 24 ones that cling, because I am considering maybe putting a little dap of crackle on each one of those just to keep them together, because they're on there by gravity almost on some of those. And then everything else was holding out, but it doesn't clutch as well as I would like. I just wanted to bring that up. So this is the culmination of bag 16 through 19. It's basically the tower there. Got some decals in there, but really not much to note except for a couple things. Like elsewhere, I've mentioned this before, be careful of the smaller pieces. They don't grip as well as Lego pieces do. And the other thing that seems to be the pattern of these, knockoff sets are the decals tend to not match the tile that they're going on. So like this one, you can kind of see that they're yellowed a little more, whereas the ones on the inside, they're yellowed too, but you can't really tell as much. So here we have the first section done. For overall, it's a pretty nice build. It just has its quality issues. Like, these don't set as nice as you would like. I mentioned that before. Again, the trees keep falling apart. This guy's super fragile. The Hungarian horntail there. And there's a few, the smaller parts just don't stick well together. So get that crackle out. This guy's a little fragile too. The structure itself, the tower, is okay. It's held together pretty well. That's really about it. Not much more to say. On to the next section. I screwed up. I didn't take a picture after 24, but basically 24 is you're building the outside shell here for bags 24. And then, since we're here, bag 25. I don't know if you can see it or not in there, but it's basically, you're just building that interior. It looks like it's the potions room and storage. So there's your bag 30, basically building this up. And you get your Whomping Willow with the Ford, I forget what they call that guy. I was missing a piece though, so that's the second one. Actually, there was 3 pieces I'm missing. I was missing a 1x1 tile also, which is basically a brown version of that guy right there. I don't know if I have one in my parts, but you can't really tell too much. These limbs move back and forth too, and that spins around. This last step, I had a couple more pieces, 1 or 2 of those gray slotted pieces missing. Oops, fix that later. After, there's also, you're going to need the balance of those tree parts that I said there was a bunch extra. I don't know why they gave you so much. This is why, because they don't include them in this bag and you need them. There was a bag earlier that had the tree parts in them, so I don't know why they did that as opposed to just including them here. So I'll try to spin this around a little bit so you can see it. The only other bits that I am concerned about, these are really loose. Probably gonna have to tack those down to keep those there. And that's pretty much it. So, but with this version, it does give you, there's a handful more steps. I think there's 2 bags that allow you to fill in the Great Hall back there, sorry. So it's gonna build that out so it's a solid surface. And then it builds the open part of that tower. So when that's done, I'm gonna continue this on and then it should be finished. Okay, so this is the bag 38. It's one of the last 2 bags that they added to make the castle more castle-like, I guess, sorry, where it's putting on the exterior wall, which is not on the Lego one. I think that's pretty cool, actually. But it also leaves the interior in there, too. The one thing I wish they did is these little plates down here, I wish they would have used tiles and maybe with 1 stud here or there. Because this is basically one whole section that if that wasn't a plates down there, you could just lift it off and still access the inside of it. That would have been a cool idea. But it looks pretty nice. It's a little bit harder to build though, because it's an add-on, and so it gets a little flimsy in here every once in a while. So it definitely took me a little bit longer than the rest of the castle as far as the sections go. But that's probably it. I kind of like about it. There's 1 last bag, and that's to seal this bit up. I wanted to end this with a couple-minute video giving some thoughts on the build. But before we get to it, that's kind of pretty much the whole castle there. 2 parts, I just didn't assemble it. And then the final bag was doing this section right here. But there's a couple comments I'd like to make. As you can see right there, it doesn't really line up. And the only thing that's really holding it on, and it's gonna kind of come apart, probably fall apart as I take this. Oh, it didn't do it. Well, there it goes. Now it just broke. You see that little hang right there? This guy? It just hooks onto that. That's the only thing holding it on there. So I've got some work to do. I'm gonna modify it to make it where it matches that up. They finished this off too. Well, this was bag 38. I talked about this a little bit, and I think I might have mentioned that I'm gonna replace these bottom plates with tiles so you can remove this section and access the Great Hall there. Overall, I kind of like the build. It's got its issues, because of the smaller parts, they don't tend to hold on as well as the other ones do. So, but there you go. It is what it is. It took about 35, 40 hours maybe over the course of a couple weeks, a little bit every night. Anyway, enjoy. I really don't like the way they did this. The part that covers this, it makes it a solid tower. I like the idea of a solid tower, but the way they executed it, not so good. It's very flimsy, like just the slightest little bit, it's gonna break those two pieces apart because it's literally held on by that. It also doesn't line up well with the existing tiles. So I'm gonna do a series of, it like lines up like that. It doesn't look very good. So I'm gonna try to do a series of videos or like little pictures and stuff, just to kind of show you the mods. The first thing I'm gonna mod is this. Okay, so the first thing you're going to want to do is break down the structure. So this is the center part. These are the two wings, I guess. And then these 6 little brackets that kind of hold everything together. And then set those aside. You're gonna need to get a few parts. I'm making all mine yellow just so you can see where they are and what are the new parts. So 3 2x6s, 1 2x8, 2 1x6s, and 3 1x4s. Those parts are from the original set. You won't need them. However, if you want to use these instead of finding your own, you can reuse those. And I will now go on to the first part. Okay, so first you're gonna take your 2x6s, put them in the middle there, just line them up under those plates. And then the 1x6s on the wings. It helps a little bit, makes it a little more stable. It's not the best, but it's better than a 2x4. If you wanted to use a 1x8, I'm sure you could do that too. So replace your 6 brackets that hold the side pieces onto those 2x6 plates. Now add another 2x6 plate here and a 2x8 plate here. It's gonna overhang just a little bit, but you want that. Now replace these brackets. This one is lined up on the bottom of that plate. This one is lined up basically with the plates right there. You can kind of see that. It is a little bit different than where it was. I'm just going for a little balance. Take those 3 1x4 plates, put 2 together here, stick it on this bracket, put 1 there. Okay, add your wings back on and fold them down as far as you can without it actually falling apart. And that's it pretty much for the assembly. So you can see where the yellow pieces are there. Now, a couple little notes before you put it on. It's going to attach here and here. The problem with this one is you look at the instructions, but I had to modify this a little bit. So the stair, I wanted to do this with as little modifications as possible to the original build. So you have to put that in there a little bit, lift this up, kind of tuck it in there. Super important, see these things? They have to line up. This has to be straight or it won't fit on because it does rotate. The other thing you do is probably take it apart if you wanted to and just fix it, and then you don't have to worry about aligning it. Okay, so I attached it. I removed the one wing so you can kind of see how it attaches in there. And you can see after you've built yours, I'm sure, much solider. I mean, you can shake that whole thing around. It's not going around. And then after you're done with that, hopefully it'll stay over there. See that little thing? You just want to well, I guess you don't have to really. This before it didn't fit as well. You can usually sometimes see how that fold. You just want to fold that in if you can. Okay, I have a bit of an addendum. I removed these parts here, added these 2 yellow base 2x6 plates, and then another 1x2 there, and then another tan jumper plate, and then the cheese wedge, which rounds that top off pretty nicely. I was talking about that gap earlier. The only thing that you have to do if you want to do this mod is, whoops, that came off, is these guys were, oh, sorry. So these guys were here and here. You have to remove those and then it fits and it looks really nice. So I'll show you a quick picture in a second. So it's really solid. You can see the whole thing shaking as I'm holding that. It's flat. That's kind of like what it looks like from the top. And then, sorry, I started working on the mods for this, but to give you kind of an idea of what it'll look like, is the tower will look like that. And I think that looks much better than the way they had it. Okay, so here are the 2 original structures that we're going to be working with. I am going to remove pretty much the dark gray on up and the light gray on up. I just want to make this structure here for now. I'll worry about the roof later, but if I can get this solid, slowly maybe work my way up. In preparation for the back half of the mod, you need to do a little modification here first. I'm going to try to do this best I can one-handed while holding the camera, so forgive me if I get that wrong. Take that off, set it aside, take this off. I don't think you're going to need it at this point. You're going to pop this off a little bit, take this guy off, Take this off. It's a angle plate plus the little one on there. Do the same for this side. Pop that. Take, come on, let go. There we go. Take this one off. And then the brown one, you're just gonna replace this right there. Take these guys, put them back, like so. You can put this one back also. And then just press it together. This I can't do one-handed, so you'll see it when it's done. Okay, so there it's done. It'll become apparent as I show you how to build the modification, why you have to reset this back and lower a plate. And then just make sure that when you pull those apart, they usually come loose from there and there. So just give that a squeeze to put those back in or it'll keep popping off. Here are the parts you'll need to build the sub-basement of Dumbledore's office. The only part that I added is this 4x4 yellow plate. I tried to get it where you can have the lighting or in the archway, but I couldn't figure it out. So what I'm gonna do is assemble this in a series of pictures. Okay, so here is the subassembly. I really was kind of hoping to get an arch in there, but I can't get it to fit with what I'm going to do for the front half of it. So there's the subassembly, and you're just going to set it right on there. You can kind of see how it lines up there a little bit. Press down and you're good. For this is all parts in the set except for these two. You can use whatever color you like. I just thought the burgundy kind of matched a little bit. But you're gonna need these two. You're gonna have to add those two corner pieces there. All you do is grab that puppy, set it on there first, and then just slide it in, and it looks pretty good. And plus you get to keep your gargoyle, and it doesn't, on the other one. So that's kind of the only thing I don't like is this little part sticking out, but you know what? I'll live with it. It's still much sturdier than what they were telling you to do. If you remember correctly from the other tiles, how these all were basically up above this rim and kind of sticking out. This is on there pretty good now, and it matches the original. This side is more the original build. So I'm pretty happy with it. I'm gonna disassemble it and kind of show you what I did to make the changes. The only thing that's here that I didn't really see is, do you see how they have 6 of those these guys? So what I'm gonna do is pull off one from each of the 3 original sets and put them there, and then they'll all be 5. That's just me being anal retentive, but I like evenness. So I removed the roof tiles, and I basically oriented them in the way that they're gonna go back onto there. So just set those aside. You gotta take that off too, and that. These are the parts that I took off from the modified set. Well, I'll show you how to build that, but that was the part that just slides on in there. It's gonna hook into these little areas right there, so that's what kind of keeps it in there pretty tight. And then those are the extra parts that you're gonna have. You are gonna need some new parts for this. So basically, the yellow and green parts right there that you see, I had to add those from my library. So you're gonna need 4 of those, 2 of those, 2 of these, 2 of these, 1 of those. This is what that assembly looks like right there. And then I think I'm gonna start off with, this was from earlier. We're gonna start off building this first because it'll clean up the section of it. And then I'll show you what to do with the office. So I'll do it in a series of pictures like before. Okay, now that you have the sub-assembly done, I just want to show you how to mount it. It's pretty easy. Hopefully I can do this with just one hand. But as I said, you're just gonna kind of like set it on top of there and just slide it in. You'll get like a little click because if you can see it in there right here, that's where that little notch was for it. And it'll just go in there and then it's not going anywhere. It's in there pretty good. So there's that. Next, I'm going to show you how to break this down and rebuild it to this configuration. Yours won't look like this right now, but it's pretty much straightforward as to how they built it. I just kind of mimicked this a little bit. Okay, so when we last left it, you basically want to take off the structure from the gray base plates on up, and that'll leave you with that right here. This is the part that we modified earlier. And, I already showed you how to do that. So just leave that there. And then as long as it looks like that. The one thing is there's going to be it's really hard to show now that I've done this, but originally there was a 2x8 gray base plate there, and these were forward. So just know that yours is probably looking different right now. You're going to strip this apart all the way up to this right here, where that brown tile is. Everything below that's going to change a little bit. I'm going to walk you through it step by step on how to do it, and hopefully you'll end up with this. I just wanted to show you where to break it. So this part, you're not going to do anything to. You're going to grab this one, set it aside. This is what you're going to break down, and then I'll show you how to build it up. And I'm going to break it into the pieces, and then I'll show you how to build it up. There's Dumbledore's office broken down. I left some of these parts together because they're built pretty much as the instructions are. So I figured you can do that. I think all of the parts, oh, no, there's one. So in the original set, this is a 2x6 brown plate. You're gonna get rid of that one and you're gonna replace it with a 2x4 brown plate from your inventory or whatever color you want. I think the rest are all parts from the set. Well, with the exception of this. This is a 1x10. The original set gave you a 2x10, so you want to get rid of that. You're going to need the room. So there we go. So here we go. Hopefully, I'm going to remember how to rebuild this without too much confusion. Okay, now that that sub-assembly is built, I'll just kind of give it a little spin here. Note where the decals are. Okay, and then you have this little gap in there. That's intentional. Okay, and then now you're going to mount this to this. Really important. Leave that faces forward. So this is the front of his desk. That's the front of that. I'm going to mount it up now. In theory, that's what you should have, and it should work. We're hoping. But what it's going to do, just so you can get a little clearer idea, is this is good. It's going to mount like that. So I don't know if you can see that when it slides together. So right now I'm going to mount this piece on, and then I'll show you how it all goes together. Back and line up. That 1x10 gray plate is just going to line up with that. Press it down, and then the other corners are right there and there. So that's no real big deal. These are where you're going to mount the roof tiles too, the angles. I'll show you that step by step. But that one you really don't need me for because that's no different than what the instructions are saying. And oh, there is one thing though. I think I don't have them on here, but you're going to need, do you see that transparent 1x2 plate? You need that there and one there and one there. All right, and then this, just to show you, it's kind of hard to do with one hand, holding a phone, get on there. So there you go. So it's all nice and in there. When you put the tiles on, it's actually a little bit tighter. I'm going to put the roof tiles on now. I find it easier to mount these corner pieces first with that little clip because you can get your finger in there. If you mount these things on first, it seems harder for me, but do what makes you happy. And then you're gonna fold these down in a little bit. Alrighty, so there you go. It's all done and pretty easy to put it back together. The one little note, if you want, you can remove this and then put that little mounting bracket on there, and this will clip down and that will actually hold it in a little better. But I want to keep the original pieces, and I am, well, sorry, it's really hard to do this with a phone in hand. So just make sure those are open as much as you can. And then just slide that in there, and you're gonna get, you'll hear like a little noticeable, or you'll feel a little click, but there you go. I mean, it's not gonna come off, it's not shaking apart. You can see me jiggling a little bit. I'm pretty happy with it. Anyway, hope you weren't too terribly bored with any of this. It does make it for better looking roof tiles as far as the original set goes. And you do notice that I actually did adjust these. You don't have to, but I just wanted them to be, whoa, look at that. I missed one. So I got to find where that guy goes. All right, take care, be well. (7317) the Fountain Square will be the next section of the castle I will build. It is the smallest of the three builds, I think, at least by bag count and manual thickness. There are 4 saran wrap slabs containing a bunch of the numbered bags in each slab. As you can see, unfortunately, some of mine have come loose. There appears to be a total of 16 numbered bags, with each number having at least 4 bags associated with it. There are also 3 unnumbered Ziploc bags containing what appears to be miscellaneous decorative cliff sides and Technic parts. There was also a small sticker sheet that was crumpled up in one of the bags. It's probably should have been placed in the manual to keep it wrinkle free. That's what they've done before anyway. Looking at the manual cover, there are some thestrals, a horntail, more boats, and some microfigs. So I guess you get some more of those, which is nice. The thestrals do seem a bit out of scale though. Like before, I'll show pictures of each step when done and break into a video segment if any issues need to be addressed or a comment is warranted. All right, I'll get to it. Bag 1 is done. It's kind of a fragile build as you're going along until you get some locking pieces in there. Like this never connects, so it keeps falling apart. These are falling off as you were building it along. But once you get done with it, it's actually pretty solid. One thing I would recommend, see those 2 little 1x1 gray plates there? I would add those. It makes keeping the, sorry about that, the larger structure here a little more solid, and because if you press down on it, it actually pushes off. You get a couple of Hungarian horntails, but they're fragile. The wings pop off. As you can see, the head's popped off just from sitting it there. So it's going to need some crackle like the other ones. You get some overgrown thestrals, or their versions of thestrals. You know, since they knock off Lego product, which they really shouldn't, why not just use the thestrals? You get 5 more boats, you get a couple more students, a couple more Dementors, maybe they're the food source for the oversized thestrals, because those should be a lot smaller than Hungarian horntails, I'm assuming. Bag 2 is done. You're basically building the bridge structure, adding some detail into here. You notice the trees are missing. I've capitulated, those little green pieces are crap, and I'm craggling them as we speak, and then I'll add them a little bit later. The bridge is a little bit fragile. They have like these parts hanging here that will kind of pop off, so just make sure you keep track of those. This is a little loose. This section looks really nice when it's built, but again, it's really a fragile as you're building it up. If you press too hard on a piece or something, a whole bunch of the other pieces will collapse underneath it until you get to this locking where they have these plates here. That kind of locks it all in. And then there's your wall. I will say with this set, there's a lot of bags per part. With other sets, it's usually like 45 minutes or so per bag, an hour at most. This one is a good couple of hours because there's so many parts per bag, just to let you know that. Finally, a whole bunch of those little parts. I don't know why the cheese wedges are in there. Usually they include those with the step you're on, but I'm assuming they're gonna be used for something else. These are terrible, as I said before. craggle them, don't fight it, and or get a bunch from Lego. Just a couple quick notes as I spin it around. It stabilizes a little bit too with this step, with the exception of one little part. This guy over here is pretty weak. I mean, it'll stay together now that you put a couple beams on it, but it wouldn't take much. This keeps coming apart down here, at least it did for me. I just wanted to kind of show you what you did, but I had a bit of a problem. I just wanted to explain, make you aware, so you don't have to go through the little minor nightmare I did. But you're basically building this up, this little tower right here, and this wall. Good luck getting Mexico to pay for yours either. So you'll notice that this isn't there. I think that while you're working on this, it's probably best not to have that connected. And the reason being is that it really doesn't hold on very well. There's two little hinges in here. One is on the bottom like that. You can kind of see it right there. And then there's that, you see the green in there? That's the one I had to replace. That fell off, dropped onto the floor. This broke apart. And then getting to replace that hinge took me a good hour or so to replace the hinge and rebuild this back up correctly. So save yourself the headache. It's not strong right now. Wait until you get to a point where it is strong and then attach it. Okay, so I'm doing this one mid-step of bag 7 because I'm really not happy with the way they did this. This is literally the only thing that's connecting this tower as they design it right now is this one piece right here. So what I did to stabilize it is I put this guy in here and then a 1x2 plate there, and then I just moved this up here. This was originally down there. That gives it a little more, but you can see it's really not that great. And since I had to add this back in, I put that up there too to hopefully keep it up there. I'll probably remove it later if something else comes along that stabilizes the build. But just a couple suggestions. I made a couple more changes because the way they did this, it's not well done. So they're gonna have you put this there, but if you move it here, it'll hold this together a little bit better, and you can just add a piece or two there. Not a big change, but it helps a little bit. Also, on the inside here, it's gonna be kind of hard to see, but there's like a gray piece there. So you can see that there's a 1x2 plates that you build up on the bottom there. But on these last two up here, I switched them with the 1x1 on the tower that you're gonna add, and it kind of bridges those, it bridges the gap there. So this is now relatively solid. It's not moving at all. If you don't do that, this will kind of actually rotate a little bit because the only thing that's kind of holding it to there is this plate right here. So do it if you like. If not, that's fine too, but it's worth the effort. I got real tired of this just not hanging on well. So what I did was I had an extra 2x6 plate there. So if you remove two of the bottom little plates there, the 1x1s, stick that in there. I bridged it across those two pieces, makes it a lot more stable. That's not coming off now. This still wiggles, but as long as this doesn't fall off, it's not gonna break. And then just to kind of show you what you're doing, you're basically working on your roof there. So that's it. It looks pretty nice. It is a very long build though. A lot of small parts. It's a pretty nice build, or at least looking wise. But I will say this, be prepared to make some modifications as you build this. The instructions are also wrong on a few steps. So kind of think it through. When it comes to the roof tiles, they tell you you need more tiles than you do. And then they also misplaced them in the instructions. So just watch out for that. I had to add a few pieces here and there just to kind of make it a little bit better, stronger. And then one other little bit is just watch. These can crumble as you put them on until you put these locking pieces in. So just be careful when you're pressing down. Just doing a quick video to point out two things. One, I was kind of surprised with the detail that they added. Usually with mocks like this, they don't. So you get this nice little area in there. I'm pretty happy with the build, but there's a couple things, and this is just me being me. There's 3 spots that I added bricks, one right there, and another one right here, actually 2, and then another one right here. And the reason why is I don't like dangling parts. They keep falling off. So I just added them. So you don't need to do it. It's just something I did. And I craggled all the trees, and I'm happy doing that. They just stay on so much better. That's it. Okay, so the back half of this part of the castle is done. Couple things on mine, these were discolored, so I replaced those, and there was a couple other pieces that had this like orangey color to it. So not the best. These I didn't get, so I had to add to them, but they did include them for here and here. Also, right in here, I don't know if you can see it or not, I put on the inside a 1x2 jumper plate, or it could be a 1x2 plate, doesn't matter. Because if you don't, this kind of separates apart. So this holds it together a little bit. Not the best designed for this, but at least that will help a lot. And then I also modified this. This used to be more along this way, but if you jump it, then it's not gonna wobble back and forth like this. There's really nothing holding this together other than the bottom. So that'll do that. And I also made a bit of a modification. Went too far, sorry. Here also, I added a plate here and modified that a little bit because again, this is only held by the bottom, so it tends to pull forward. So just little things. These don't clutch very well, so be careful. I rotated and I just found whichever ones they stuck in the best. That's the one I put out. You'll see it in the instructions. That's really about it. It's pretty nice. A lot nicer than I thought it was gonna be. And it's just gonna plug in basically to where that suspension is. Okay, thanks. Okay, I'm gonna apologize ahead of time. This is gonna be extremely difficult one-handed. It's really easy with 2 hands, but I modified this so it's relatively easy to take out because I needed to remove part of it just to get this to go in correctly. You can see part of that's on there, so I'll show you this. I was experimenting to see how this would fit into that. It doesn't go very easily. You do need to make some mods, which I'll show you the other ones after I do this. So basically, you want to remove this guy first. And then that tree down there, he's got to come out. Matter of fact, I think I'm just going to remove him and place him somewhere over here and just leave it at that. You need to remove this piece here also. If I can get to it with one hand, which I don't think I can. There we go. You want to remove that. Okay. And then this is it's easy two-handed, one-handed, probably not so much, but you can just pop that out. I'm going to try to get underneath there. So you see how that pops out a little bit? And I'll show you why it does that. If you can get it up about halfway-ish, then you can spin it out. And that's it. And then it actually goes in here. If you have 2 hands, it's much easier. Look at your instructions to see how this originally was, but I just laid some tiles there and it just anchors right here and here and there and there. And that's it. And then plus, if you want, you have access to play in there a little bit. So that was it. But this is the problem. If that wall's in there, you can't push this down. And then I definitely can't do this with one hand, or I mean, I'll try, but it's going to be a disaster. So you can pull this, you can kind of pull this out then. Oh, and it didn't. Oh, I forgot to remove the, you have to remember the mods. I did some mods on that. You have to remove that also. You have to remove that to get that out, and just do the reverse on there. I'll try to do this one-handed, sorry. So it comes off in sections like that, and it kind of broke. I'm gonna try to fix that, you know, do that mod earlier. And then you had a bunch of blue pins all along here. You had these decorative pieces like this that were mounted here, here, and under there. You want to remove all those, and you want to remove all the blue pins. If you do that, it'll fit nicely. If any of that's in there, it's not going to line up properly. All right, sorry about that. Sorry about the messy trying to show you. Good luck. So here we are, 7315, the Central Courtyard. It's the third and final section of the build. It looks to be the largest of the three sections, going by the weight and size of the bags. As you can see, they are packaged like before. There are 9 saran wrapped slabs containing several of the numbered bags in each one. According to the manual, there looks to be 32 of the numbered steps. If you've made it this far, you know how this will work, so I won't repeat it again here. I will, however, break down the slabs to show you what they contain and maybe do a quick video of them sorted. It took me about an hour and a half to unbag all those packages I showed you earlier. That's what it comes out to, 32 bags. So I guessed that right. Plus this mammoth bag of Technic parts, ton of plates, but there's some small plates in there too that were falling out, and some of the mountainsides. There's your manual. You can kind of see how thick it is. One thing I wish they would do is they always throw their decals in a bag of parts and they just get trashed. So I don't know if you can see that or not. I don't know how they're gonna apply. Why they don't just stick them in the manual for safety is beyond me. But there you go. And then you can see right there, a few more bags, unnumbered bags of parts that I'm assuming are gonna go with those. I placed them in the bags with the bags that they came in. There's also a couple bags throughout that are unnumbered, but they're cellophane, like that one. So hopefully it goes with that step. I'm not sure. And I think that's really about it. So just kind of be aware, there's a lot to keep track of. And good luck. It's massive. Oh, and have your scissors with you. You're gonna need them. Doing a quick video for the end of step 5, which you can see you're building the top of the base, but to give you an idea of the scale, that's the castle, that's the base. Its footprint is almost as big as that castle. But the main reason why I'm doing a video is that you're gonna wanna, these don't line up well. So for each one, you're gonna wanna jiggle it and press down at the same time for all of them in there. There are a lot of them. About 87, I think, somewhere in there, maybe 90. So, but do you see how it kind of pops up? So just make sure you get that down. Make sure you have a nice level surface to it, because when you put the plates on later, if it's not level, they'll keep popping up, and you might as well fix it while you can. So just take note of that. Otherwise, I just had 1 or 2 of these big 6x8 Technic pieces missing. I had some in my library. Hopefully you won't have any missing. I'll try to keep this in the frame, but you're basically at end of bag 6. You do get a little detail starting there, but mostly it's just building up the perimeter rock base, I guess, for lack of a better word. It's easy to screw it up though, some of the parts, so just kind of pay attention. It's no major deal if you do, you just can't fit parts together. I changed a few of the blue things in there and added one. I had some extra ones just for a little extra support. You don't have to do that though, that's not in the instructions. So that's pretty much it. Eight is done. It's basically amounts to 2 layers of plates to set up the foundation for your buildings. And it took a bit of while. It took about 2.5, 3 hours to put them all in. A lot of pressing. Your fingers are probably going to get sore. And then there was a couple areas that I had 4 or 5 of these guys left over from the previous steps. So I used one in here to support some plates in here, and another one over here because the plates underneath here didn't have anything to support it. So to get that to press down, it is solid. You could literally walk on this as I did just for fun. And then finally, I should have mentioned, I just showed a picture last time. Last step, they do little detail steps like that. These keep popping off, these little guys. So you can do, just be aware of that. And finally, where are they? These little 1x1 quarter rounds, I actually glued them down. They had no clutch whatsoever. I mean, you could almost practically blow them off. So before going on tonight, I did a little experiment just to see how this would match up because I was a little suspicious that there's going to be any issues, and sure enough, there were. So basically, you're going to have some building that you've had existing all along there. All that's going to come out. There's a little bit of the side decoration that comes out, that sticks out. You got to flatten that out. I just rearranged the pieces a little bit. You can see I have a bunch of extra pieces there. I don't know why the anti-ants thing is there. And then there's some blue pins and what have you. But you just kind of want to make sure that that's clean all the way to the other side. Even this tree may have to come out. And then on top of it, and when I did line it up a little bit, it looks like these 2 plates are slightly higher than here. So hopefully things will line up, but you definitely have to remove those if you want this to close in nice and smooth. Bag 11's done. You're working on the greenhouses, some plants, and this little structure right there. Pretty cool. I like that one. These are not so good. They are very flimsy. You can see it just though it's easily just to make it fall apart. It's really put together poorly. So I'm probably going to rework it with solid bricks along the bottom there. And they're only attached on 4 little, those guys right there. So it doesn't even stay on there very well. You're building the 4 larger greenhouses and this structure in here and those plates right there. Couple of thoughts though. I'm going to probably replace these plates with tiles so that the structures that you put on them are going to be building up can be removable. This is getting quite heavy. I see moving this around is going to be a bit of a challenge. Also, in addition, I did end up adding plates to the bottom of the greenhouses just for structural integrity. You couldn't do that with the ones as designed. It's a terrible design, they would just crumble. So this first picture is going to show you how I arrange the plates and what you'll need. It's 16 1x6 plates, 8 by 1x3s, and 8 1x2s. For the larger one in this picture, you'll need 24 of the 1x6s, 8 of the 1x3s, and 4 of the 1x2s. Those numbers are the total number of plates that you'll need for all 4 structures. In step 12, you put these tiles in here, but there's nothing supporting them. So if you press them down, they'll pop off. I just put some jumpers and a tile. You could probably just put a row of tiles in there. That's what I had, so that's what I used. Also, I added this tile here and this tile here because these 4 sections will kind of separate, so it just holds it together, and that one does the same there. And finally, you are doing another greenhouse, and if you want to do to make it structurally sound, you're going to need 4 of those 1x6 plates, 2 of the 1x3s, and 2 of the 1x2 plates as pictured here. Okay, I'm just breaking out into a little video for this one. Basically, you're building the two towers there with some nice detail to it. But I just wanted to show you a quick way to get all those level. Is you see this little part? If you line it up with the top of that stud to the top of the mast there, that'll space it out. So I just used this, and it made lining those up pretty easy. Just a little quick tip. The other thing too, I've been noticing for the last 6, 7, 8 bags that there's a lot of pieces that are malformed or with a lot of flashing on it. You know, it's kind of a quality control issue, but something to be aware of. So you'll spend some time cleaning up the pieces a little bit. I just wanted to do a video for this. I should have done it when you did that tower over there because the same thing applies. But basically at the end of this step, you're building the top of that tower structure, and I'm guessing the next step is going to be over there. But what I wanted to point out is that I changed one thing in instructions. Instructions have you put this piece down here and the two 1x1 rings on top of it, and it makes this very loose and it just pops off. If you flip it around like that, you're gonna have a little gap. But you can, then it makes this much more stable. It doesn't flop around. And plus you can adjust it so that once you get these pieces in here, you can lower it down and it kind of fastens them in place a little bit. Just an idea. I wanted to do another breakout video just to show you a change I made. Originally, the plan is you have a 1x1s all the way up here, and it's very flimsy. They don't clutch very well, so it either collapses in or collapses out as you're placing the plates on there. So what I did was I took, instead of having these like this, I took them like that, and then I had some of these in my own parts library. You're going to need 2, 4, 6, 7 of them. And you just put them together like that. They are a little tight because of this, but it works. And then it's much solid. The part's not going to fall off. This section is just kind of pissing me off. It's very fragile. A lot of, you can see that in sections, it'll come apart. This I actually bridged across with a 1x3 and some plates. You'll notice the difference between this and the instructions. Otherwise, this whole section falls off. As you're building it, you can see in there, it's so fragile that if you push down too hard, parts will fall all the way down. You got to remove the tower to get to them. And then finally, this part right here, which matches this step right here, is you have the parts on there, but the stick is too long, so you can't put this piece on. Anyway, they really needed to do a better job with that design. And this what happens when you guys don't design something well, is it falls apart. So I really don't know what to tell you. I've been struggling in this for an hour trying to get this last section on there to fit without it crumbling. So good luck. There's the castle, it's finished. The build itself was okay. It looks really good, but remember there's a lot of reworking that you have to do on some of these parts, and I'll briefly recap it as I go around it. Was it worth the 680 bucks I spent on it? Probably. It was a great COVID build. It took 2 months, 3 to 4 hours a night, maybe 5. Some of that is definitely reworking. If you just do it by themselves, probably less. But remember that this, I enjoyed the build except for this last step. This was just a royal painting the derriere for our PG audience. I reworked the interior core of it. I bridged this over here. So there's like 3 plates above this just to keep this from flopping back and forth. They should have, I don't know if they originally were going to have a clock piece in there, but it just looks like it's empty. And then down here, remember I put those studs back there, so that's nice and tight. This bit is still fragile, and putting this in was a pain. I just couldn't get it to set right. There's other parts that I've reworked. Recall that I reworked some of this to keep the walls from flopping back and forth. And I put I put those across to keep those together. And then I reworked the walls in there, so that all is a little bit nicer. And then I think that's really about it. It is pretty big. I think mine, it's about 51 inches by 37, 39 inches, somewhere in there. So there you go. And finally, there are your books. And these are the parts that I had left over, a whole bunch of pins. These are not truly, if you build it correctly, these may not be the extra parts that you have, because I used a lot of parts to rework some structures in there. And then these parts are just the decorative parts on the edges that you have to remove to get these to fit together. Basically, they're in there. And where's the other part? Oh, yes. And then they're in throughout here. So keep those if you ever want to separate it again and make it as it was designed, but I'm probably not going to need them. All right, there you go. Anyway, I hope this wasn't too awful. I didn't think it would be as long as this is, but well, anyway, I hope it works. Bye.